Hi, I'm Michael Hackett, Certified Scrum Master and Senior Vice President at Logica Corporation. To talk about Agile test automation, first I'd like to talk about what the problem is. Many teams find automating on Agile projects difficult. There are a couple of reasons for this. First, many companies implement Agile precisely because there's a need for speed. Products need to get out to the customers faster, projects are smaller in scope, but faster. And that works against some of the traditional reliances that software test teams have had in their test automation, that they have a long lead-up time to get the engineering straight, build the infrastructure, that for any particular test automation project, they have some lead-up time before they get some code. On Agile projects, the goal is to get rid of that lead-up time and to be coding right away, so that need for speed and the lack of ramp-up time work against traditional perspectives on how we automate in testing. Another problem for test teams is that one of the goals of Agile is to have leaner documentation, less documentation. This again works against testers' traditional reliance on engineering specs, architecture documents, design documents, where the test team is going to get a significant amount of documentation or not. But there's a perception that test teams will get enough documentation to where they can fully understand the architecture of the product to help them code their automation. That's just not going to happen in Agile projects. Also, there may be a misunderstanding of what unit testing is for. The goals of unit test automation in test-driven development in Agile projects, replacing or somehow impacting UI, API, or black box testing that traditional test teams would do. They really are independent and have separate goals and serve a separate purpose. So I don't want to get into that discussion now, but that can actually work against teams, test teams, looking for investment into test automation when some people might have a misunderstanding that the need for test automation can be replaced by a significant amount of unit testing. They're really separate and have different goals. Another aspect of Agile that impacts test automation is just the shorter cycle, that these projects are so short and the test teams just won't have ramp-up time. Lastly, one of the big impacts for just the perception of test automation is that Agile projects develop functionality, develop design over time. This would lead anybody familiar with traditional test automation projects. This would send up red flags to say the test maintenance cost is going to be very high. If the functionality is going to develop over time during a sprint, anytime functionality changes, there's going to have to be maintenance on the test automation, and that can lead to a higher cost. Well, there are ways that that should not be a problem, but it may lead some teams to having a perception that test automation just won't work in Agile. There are people who are suggesting throwaway automation. Use a simple, low-tech solution of maybe record and playback to capture low value but immediate use tests that when a sprint is over they can throw the tests away and there won't be much loss because they're low investment. I have a fundamental problem with that perception because test automation really needs to be an asset to the company, an asset to the product development organization. And if it isn't, if your idea about test automation is that you're doing throwaway tests, just the value of the test will never be there. The test automation will not be profound enough to have that significant an impact on the developed product. So I don't think that's a good perception to have from the start on test automation. We do have a solution, though, for automating in Agile projects. I would suggest that you use action-based testing as your automation architecture, as your test methodology for your automation architecture, and implement action-based testing so that you can implement a just-in-time automation response during your sprints. I would suggest you read Hans Bawalda's articles on action-based testing as a solution for Agile test automation. So I have a couple of other suggestions about how you should approach test automation in Agile projects. First, make sure that your team is doing unit testing and understands what unit testing is for. Significant unit test automation is going to have an impact on the quality of the product that your customer gets, and it's an important impact. It's a great move forward that teams are focusing more on unit testing in Agile development, but it is not a replacement for our traditional test automation. Next, I would suggest you focus on your smoke test, on your build validation test, to be made part of your continuous integration process. Focus on a very solid smoke test for quick build validation. If you're in an Agile project and you're getting multiple builds, if all your testing is manual, the team can just never keep up with how many builds you get. So automate your smoke test first. Make it a good, solid test. Next, focus on a high coverage, high volume, profound regression test. Make sure that you have significant test automation of existing functionality as part of your regression suite to give you all the benefit that regression testing can give you on existing functionality. So make sure that that's really solid. And last, if you really are focused on doing test automation for new functionality, I would suggest you use an action-based testing methodology to do just-in-time test automation to get new functionality automated in your automation architecture during a sprint. So I hope you found this useful. Thank you.